welcome. Welcome to the Founder Education Series. Today, we are bringing founders and knowledge experts together to turn experience into greater visibility, stronger opportunities, and meaningful impact. I'm Nikki Estes, and today we're grateful to welcome Bobby Umar. Bobby has built a global speaking career by turning experiences with failure, transition, reinvention into a story that connects with people and creates opportunities. We're going to explore why your story may be one of your most valuable assets, how founders can use their story to strengthen their visibility, leadership, speaking, content, and revenue. And as you listen, this is the question that we'll come back to at the end. What part of your story can become a message, resource, workshop, or an opportunity that serves others and expands your impact? Stay with us. At the end, we'll also give you a resource for 2 free months of Voca Tales, and that will help you to be able to build your storyboards. Bobby, we're grateful to have you here. Before we get into it, talking about storytelling as a strategy, let's start with your story. What happened that made you become this leading TEDx coach, a global keynote speaker, and the founder of the Thought Leadership Branding Club?
Well, I mean, my story is very, roller coaster and diverse, but the short version is I had 4 different careers: brand marketing, engineering, performing arts, and teaching. The last one was corporate brand marketing. It wasn't working out for me. And then once I left that, I was like, what do I really want to do with my life? And I decided to dive in my personal brand. I did a bunch of interviews, surveys, and 100 people help me. I had a large network, so a lot of people were helping me, decide. And within about, 4 or 5 months of this deep dive research, I decided I want to become a motivational speaker because it fit with my brand. I like people, nurturing, influence, performance, diversity. And so for me, it seemed like a really good thing to do. And after that, things really took off. Well, actually, no, I lie. It didn't take off. It was slow. I had my kids, and I became what I call a 25-hour-a-week entrepreneur because I didn't want to spend time away from my children. They were born. I don't regret that for a minute. It was slow the first 3 or 4 years, but then in 2011, which is about 4 or 5 years into my speaking career, I got my first TEDx talk, and that's when everything kind of took off. And then after that, also, I really got into social media. I was a really big social media guy. We started building influence across multiple channels: Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatnot. And that's kind of where the Twitter influence hit 500,000 followers, and LinkedIn got 50,000, became the top voice. And so I saw there was a lot of opportunity there. And then as I went along, my expertise evolved. Initially, it was soft skill leadership. Then I started talking about personal branding. I started talking about a book on that, personal branding, developed a course. Then digital marketing influence became a big thing as well. And the TEDx talks were often about connection, and I found that connection was a very foundation of what I talked about. But in terms of my expertise, whether it's speaking or presenting or TEDx talks or whatever, the pandemic really helped me focus on the fact that when speaking kind of fell apart, I was going to coaching. I realized that storytelling is definitely one of the things that I'm quite good at. And so whether it's personal stories, vulnerable stories, company stories, executive stories, brand stories, that's something I could do very, very well. And so I started spending a lot of time with that. Now, what ends up happening is then, my business is three things. One is the speaking and coaching, speaking and training, which is like talking about vulnerable storytelling, personal branding for executive presence, how to leverage LinkedIn or other social media platforms to build your authority and your brand and stand out. And then the other piece was the coaching piece. So one was I coach people how to land a TEDx talk and leverage that to build their authority and trust. And then I also coach small business owners with the third business, which is TLB Club, which is a membership community for small business owners who are trying to level up their business or brand and just monetize better with funnels and sales and accountability, because most business owners struggle with that. You ask them a question, tell me how you make sales. Oh, I post on social media. Well, that's not really a client acquisition strategy. But what exactly are you doing for sales? And so they struggle with that. And so I try to help them get a little bit more focused on what are the 1, 2, 3 things they should do versus the 20 things they think they should be doing. And so, yeah, that's and since that time, I've done 5 TEDx talks. I've done 1,000 keynotes across 4 continents, and I'm a big content creator, and I love what I do, and I do what I love. And I just launched on Substack too. So lots going on.
Right. Well, Substack is not even just writing. You told me about doing video on Substack. Now, I haven't heard about that. What is that?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, Substack, the people who don't know much about Substack, they think Substack is a blog site, which is fine. And it is like Medium. But the difference, though, is that there's a platform there for other things. So they have the long form content with the writing, but you also have short form content with notes, which is kind of like Twitter or Threads or Blue Sky. quick notes. And that's a game changer. The other thing that's a game changer is you can have community group messages, which is really cool. And the last big thing that's a game changer is the live stream. I've been doing live streams there. So I've used StreamYard, I've used Restream to multi-stream across multiple platforms, which this is doing right now. But the Substack one, I really love it. It's very, very, they are super supportive of content creators, because if you look at when we do stuff on, so I'll give you 2 examples. I use Restream, and when I they say, hey, okay, great live stream you did there. Here are a couple of AI clips you want to take a look at. I say, click. And they said, no, you got to pay more for them. Oh, interesting. Okay. And then when I do a LinkedIn live stream or a LinkedIn post, hey, it's great, but there's nothing there. But on Substack, when I launch an article and when I do a live stream, they send me suggested images to promote it, which they do it for me, which is great. And then after my Substack live is over, they say, hey, here are a couple of clips. They generate 4 or 5, maybe up to 10 clips of the talk. And they say, do you want to post this to the full thing to your YouTube? So with the click of one button, I post the entire video plus the 5 to 10 clips of shorts to YouTube, just like that. With the title and everything, that's amazing. Amazing. For free. Sorry, I'm getting excited.
No, it's great. I love it. So is there a fee for that? Like, I don't personally use Substack.
It's free.
Okay.
It's crazy.
The whole thing. Okay.
They let you do this for free. And so like all the other platforms don't support you. Like if I do anything on any platform, they're not sending me sometimes Meta says, hey, you want to get on a call with a Meta, Facebook, Instagram expert on how to your content. But Substack is giving me options to promote this very, very well and very easily. And what I used to do is I would take all the stuff I would do before, put in an Opus clip, download 15 clips, upload one at a time and I had to come up with the title, upload it. This is giving me the title and just one button. It's all there. That is amazing.
That is amazing. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm now pushing a lot of people to put Substack as a big part of their content strategy.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, the freeness is great, but the repurposing is the time, which we don't have very much
time, right? We want to scale and we want to save time. I always say that. Those are 2 things you want.
Right. Yes. I mean, I'm thinking like I would pay for that. Like, most of our top voices would pay for that, right? That's what they need, something that repurposes it.
No, okay. And that's why, and yeah, so I mean, like the 2 biggest things I'm teaching everybody in my network, my TEDx program, my TLB club, I'm teaching them AI and how to use Claude and build systems to scale and to save time. But I'm also teaching Substack because I really think it's fantastic.
Okay. Well then, let's take a hold of that. What is it about your story that belongs on Substack, that belongs on LinkedIn, belongs everywhere? What is it about your story that really gets people excited, that helps them to have that transition, that change that you're helping them with?
Well, the primary message I've had forever actually, there's a video on my LinkedIn featured section. Now, the video's kind of old. It's when I had darker hair. But basically is, everyone has a story, purpose, and legacy. And so everyone has a story. And so I'm a big believer in sharing that. So everyone can do a TEDx talk. Everyone can share content. Everyone can do a live stream. Everyone can share the story in a board meeting or in a meeting room or on the production floor. Because people, and the reason why is because people resonate with stories. We've been doing it for thousands of years. And there's always someone out there that will resonate with what you're talking about. Or someone will say, when I do vulnerable stories, they resonate with the fact that they don't feel alone. So for all these reasons, yeah, storytelling is something you should all be doing. And we all do it in a manner of speaking. It's all about just doing it better and more consistently with greater clarity, purpose, and power and impact. But yeah, I think that for everybody, like, every business owner, every career person, you have a story to share, whatever it might be. Like if you're a corporate person, maybe you want to share some insights you've learned from, working with people or coaching people. If you're a business owner, what are the things you've learned along the way, both good and bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and sharing that stuff. Because when I share the ugly stories anywhere, someone will say to me, "Oh my God, I'm so glad to hear that, because you're such a big brand, and and you're well known, and I'm glad to know that you're human." Like, well, yeah. And I learned this a long time ago. I'm mainly been a motivational speaker for 20 plus years. And I remember I was speaking on a stage with 3 other speakers on a panel. We did this whole day of sessions for young people, mostly like students and young entrepreneurs. And someone actually mentioned about how they were having a really hard time. Like they felt guilty for wasting the day. And so in that moment, I decided to share, and I think that was like, gosh, when was that? Maybe 2012. And I said, look, we all have our dark days. And I said, I've had dark days. I remember back in the day where I'm supposed to be working. I get up, I get caught up in social media. And so, I'm watching Oprah, and then I'm watching the news, and all of a sudden it's like 6 o'clock, and I waste the whole day doing nothing. I felt like an idiot. And so what can I do? Maybe I can do a couple things that evening for a few hours. Maybe I can just forgive myself, and maybe I can the next day try it again. When I shared that, they couldn't believe that someone who was like the featured speaker on stage is sharing such a dark day. And next thing you know, the other 3 speakers decided to share their dark days, and it became a really powerful conversation. And this is like, almost like 13, 14 years ago. And so that was the epiphany I had. Like, you know what? This is something that you can share without fear. And so I started doing more of that too.
I value that. I would say that a lot of people right now would like to have someone they could share their story with and feel aligned with them and not feel alone.
Yeah, and when you do share your story, I mean, that's the thing. When someone stands in the soapbox or stands on the rock and shares a story, the reason people listen is because they resonate or they relate or they feel like they're being heard or connected with, and that's the big power of the story.
Well, those of you that are in our audience today, we have Kedar and Jay. Appreciate you all participating. If you want to share something that is a part of your story that you would like for us to know, you can put it in the comments. Daniel, thank you. From Maitland, Florida, thank you for joining. Bobby, as we talk about the stories that are out there, like why is it now? That was 12, 14 years ago. What about now? Why is it still valid? The story-driven visibility. What are we doing?
Well, I think there's a reason why stories have been around for thousands and thousands of years, right? So this is a way for us to share our culture, our values, the meaning of life, the meaning of business, the meaning of friendship, the meaning of love, the meaning of relationships. Like, so for me, that's why it's still relevant today. But the other thing I'll say is that, with the advent of technology and AI, and particularly AI slop, I always talked about building thought leadership, and I always talked about, building your brand and building authority. And those are very important pieces for sure. But the other big piece now is you have to build trust, because the more you build trust, the more you can break through the clutter of all the stuff that is AI or just manufactured stuff that, seems a bit overly polished and things like that. So if you're able to do the story, then yes, you're going to be building trust in a manner that connects with people, and that consistency builds more trust. They start to know, like, and trust you, which means they're more likely to want to work with you or to collaborate with you or follow you. And I think that's an important piece. And then the other thing that I saw recently was I saw a post by Gary Vaynerchuk talking about that, the social media economy is now the interest-based economy. So what that means is, so for example, on Instagram right now, my followers are slowly declining, but I don't care because one of the things he said, it's not about followers anymore on certain platforms. Some platforms followers do matter, but it's really about interest. It's the interest-based economy. So can you garner their interest? Can you generate interest in what you're talking about? And that's, again, where stories will actually matter. Because if you tell the right stories, it doesn't matter whether you have 100 followers or 50,000 followers. If you generate interest in whatever you're talking about, you can start talking to people, and that's where the magic happens, when you talk to people.
So then, would you say that founders they don't quite understand credibility yet, and this is something that we teach them, that authority, that consistency that keeps them in front of people? Do you think that that's something that they can learn how to become more credible, or is it their experience or something else that would make them to become more credible? What helps them to get that authority as an expert?
Well, I mean, I think there's lots of different things that founders struggle with, but I think the main one would be that they're hustling so hard to build the business and, let's say, maybe get funding or whatever they're trying to do. And so I think some of them feel scared or shy to share vulnerability or just share their story out there for fear of being judged, or what if an investor sees it and they don't like what they see, like all that kind of stuff. So I think they worry about that. And then secondly, I don't think they realize how important that is. because until later on when they're like struggling, like 2 years as a founder or 5 years as a founder, like, because no one knows them and no one knows who they are and no one believes in them or no one's like seeing what they're up to because they're so hunkered down at building the business and talking to people and set up the systems, work on the website, talking to investors, and okay, great. But you know what? Like, but then let's say you actually are successful as a business owner. You get $500,000 of seed funding and you're building this product and it's ready to launch. But you know what? No one knows about it because you haven't been talking about it for the last 2 years. So they miss out on that, I think, and then they don't realize that is a huge part. I have a lot of people. I have a lot of founders come to me and say, "Hey, Bobby, help me with a TEDx talk." Why? Because I need to build authority and a visibility around and awareness around who I am. I'm like, I know, great. What have you been doing the last 2 years? Oh, I've been working on the product. Yeah. Okay. Does anyone know about the story? No. So I think that's another thing I think is really important, right? So, being able to tell the story with people goes a long way, and taking people on that journey from beginning before you even launch. They always say that in networking, they say the best network's like planting a tree, but the best tree planted is 20 years ago. The next best tree, the next best seed planted is now. But it's kind of the same with telling stories, and whether you're trying to build as a founder, planting the seeds of your story and who you are and letting people know is doing it way back in the day, in the beginning, in the humble beginnings when we are struggling, because people will resonate with that.
What do you think are some misunderstandings that founders have about getting that visibility and growth?
So I think they're worried about negative publicity or something bad. They say something wrong, people pick it apart. I mean, there's a lot of people who are out there, vultures and trolls, and trying to, hate on everything you say. And I get a lot of that, and that's fine. So look, that fear is not unjustified, but honestly, it's usually rando people with hardly any following, and they're just trying to stir you up. And the truth is that you need to ignore that noise. Again, some of it's AI bots. You ignore that noise, but that negative, the perception of being seen negatively or getting attacked, for the most part, it's not as bad as you think it is. I mean, as someone like myself, people think that with 500,000 followers on Twitter and 70,000 on LinkedIn and 43,000 on Instagram, you think that I get inundated with messages and emails. I don't. You still get them. And first thing is I turn off all my email notifications because I don't want to get a bunch of emails that are just random stuff. Someone liked your post, or someone liked your comment, or someone tweeted you, whatever. But the other thing is, like, they don't. Most people don't respond. Most people don't say stuff. So the ones who do respond are the ones who really care about your message and are interested in what you're trying to say. And so that becomes a really good message. Right. So I just got a text this morning from somebody who actually wasn't a while ago, and then but left. And he's like, "Hey, I've been seeing your stuff lately, and I wanted to reach out about maybe becoming a speaker." Great. Like, I haven't talked to him in 2 years. Maybe a comment on a post or something, but not really. So that's great. That's the type of messaging that I want to get, because then those people are genuinely interested in collaborating or working with you, which I think is really, really good.
So then what would be the gap? You're going to come in and you're going to coach him up. What is that gap that he needs to go from now, I want to be a speaker, to someone that actually makes it onto a TED stage? What does that look like?
Well, those are, they all kind of, so when it comes to TEDx talks, the general idea is most people struggle with, they can't come up with the right story. Like, they either have many stories or maybe one they kind of want to go with. Like, a very common thing with founders is, I want to promote my product or my tech. It's not going to cut it. And then you have to come up with, or they have no idea what to choose. So you have to come up with the right stories and ideas that make sense. Some of them are personal, not the technical stuff, or not the business related stuff. You can't pitch your book. You can't pitch your product. You have to find a way to come up with a unique story that's interesting. Then how to find TEDx events is very hard for people. So I give them, my list that I've generated. And then number 3, they don't know how to pitch properly. So that's a big part of it. Now, speaking is very similar. So, my whole TEDx process, there's people out there saying, how can you guarantee a TEDx talk? Isn't that against the rules? Are people paying to be a TEDx speaker? No, I said, I'm taking my original speaker mastermind program, which is, I taught them how to find your target, how to find your brand, how to create your speaker sheet, how to then pitch it to organizations to then get chosen to be spoken, to be a paid speaker. And that's exact same process is for TEDx. I'm basically teaching people how to enhance the process so they have a better they increase their chance. And now, is it 100% guaranteed? Well, not exactly, but the truth is every single person who's followed my process has landed TEDx talk. So I'm happy to guarantee it, because if you do the work, you will get it. If you don't do the work, you'll just have excuses in 6 months or 12 months, and I'll just talk to you about, hey, you didn't do the work. So I don't want. That's why I guarantee it. I mean, it's not 100%, although so far it has been. But yeah, there could be something. It's possible that someone could do everything and not get it. If that happens, I'll refund your money, no problem. But I feel pretty good about my process. So I think that it's important to that there is a process for speaking, a process for TEDx talk, but ultimately it comes to what is your brand, what is your story, what are you trying to pitch, and how. And then if you do that right, and you know how to target the right people, the right events, you'll be able to have success with that.
Okay. And I'm imagining that AI probably helped you now that you have Claude as your strong tool. Tell me about that. How has AI changed the way that you're thinking about storytelling and content?
Well, the part, man, I talk about AI because I'm so excited.
I know.
In the last, because in the last like 3 or 4 weeks, I went from Claude Chat to Claude Cowork to Claude Code to now Visual Studio Code with Claude Code, and now I have an entire Bobby OS system on my OneDrive that's connected, and I'm connecting with MCPs through composing other stuff, and I can tell you it's crazy what I've been doing. But the best example of how it relates to stories is this, which was I said, hey, listen, is there a way for us? I told Claude, is there a way for us to get all my videos and find a way to transcribe them and then extract the information from it? And so what happened was it went through 1,800 of all my YouTube videos, because it's connected to my YouTube across my 6 different channels there over my lifetime. It extracted all the stories. It then summarized it. And from that, it created a database of all this information and all my stories and all my nuggets. So it's created like a list of maybe 300, 400 quotes. It's created a database of hundreds and hundreds of stories that I've told. And on top of that, it gave me enough rich information to say, what I'm thinking about stories, where else are my stories? So then I was like, go find my podcast, and start finding then just recently I said, I was on Clubhouse for a couple of years, go find those things. And now it's downloading like 60 Clubhouse things that I ran. And then the biggest thing that just happened was just on Tuesday, 2 days ago, I launched my my first ever podcast. So I've been on 300 podcasts as a guest. I've never done one because it's too hard and too time-consuming, but Claude Code has let me do it just like that. It set everything up. It got them. It's set everything up. It's launched. There's 3 stories already, like 3 episodes already launched. We got the artwork. It's on Spotify, Amazon Music, all the places. And that's awesome. So the caching my database of stories has been amazing. And that has been really, really good. And the other thing that it helps with your brand voice, because I already have a very sophisticated brand voice where it knows how I speak and how I talk and things like that. But now it keeps getting better and better because it's extracting stuff. And once in a while, like, oh yeah, that's a model I don't really use anymore, so don't worry about that one. I know that you caught that from 5 years ago. Yeah, this one's actually really good. Let's use that one. And so now it's like it's basically talking like me. And so for me, using Claude or using AI to find all the stories you've put out there. This could be your PowerPoints, your documents, your articles, videos, everything. I basically have gone out there and captured. I haven't done the count, but I'm going to guess probably if you count all the documents and all the things, there's literally 3,000 to 4,000 things that I've been able to extract and document for the past 20 years. That's crazy. And on top of that, I said, hey, based on this, can you write a book? I said, sure. And it wrote a 27-chapter book. Just like that. Just like that. Now I haven't looked at it. I'll get my wife to edit it, but it looked pretty I looked at a couple of chapters. Okay, this is a little bit different, and then okay, fine. And then it put it all together, and it literally took it like 2 hours, which is something I've always wanted to do. I do have books before, but I've always wanted to have books on connection, storytelling, personal branding, TEDx talks, things like that. So now it has that, and it has enough about that.
That's amazing. I mean,
yeah,
the human has to be in the loop. You were there. This is your story. These are your YouTube videos. This is your transcripts. All of it.
That's important.
You can't just make yourself up through that, right? You have to have the skills of writing. You have to have built the strategy. Like you had to have done all that. I'm
Yeah,
so,
and I think the people who are just starting out, or let's say they haven't done 1,000 videos or haven't done hundreds of blog posts. I mean, the truth is, you can still use it to capture. Like, I'll give you an example. My dad, he's 82 years old, and he's now thinking about his legacy, and he wants to capture, stories of his life. And sometimes he shares emails with me and my siblings. Hey, do you remember this? Before we moved here or moved from Pakistan to Canada, here's what happened. Great stories, Dad. I said, look, I told Dad, I said, Dad, here's what you do: get a voice memo on your phone and just talk to it. Give it to
mhm,
me. I will transcribe it and I'll summarize it for you, and you can have it and you can give it to everybody. Like, if you do that, because he's semi-retired, he's sitting
sure.
around, like, just do this. And I would love to capture like hundreds of hours you talking about you and Mom and the life and everything you did. That would be amazing. So that is great. So I think even founders can just start doing that and
Mhm.
capturing those things, because it's amazing what you will start to, once you start doing it. It's amazing what you start to remember, because stories have this ability to springboard. So I make all my clients, whether they're doing TEDx talks or personal branding or business development or content strategy, to do what I call the life story. And they do a life story that can be 2 pages. It ends up being 5, then 10. Then tell me the what, the so what, the now what, and then also, it starts to the neural stuff starts to fire away. Oh, that reminds me of this, and oh, that reminds me of this, and it's amazing when you do that exercise. And next thing you know, you have a 40-page document that you put together, and there's so much rich stuff in there that you can use for just about anything.
Mhm. Well, that's, I'm going to throw it out there. Rochelle Khanna, I don't know if you've met her yet in the Top Voices community, but she's creating something to where it's for the elderly, where we could be able
Mm,
to have, as a child, have this automated system to talk to them. So first you have a human case manager that like meets with the person and starts to outline what the story could be about. And then they go and they meet with their parents and they say, hey, let's get your story. So they call them as often as they want to, but
oh,
it's
yeah,
one week, once a week, they get a phone call and they get to just tell their story. It's all transcribed. And then her system they're going to make you these books out of it and give it back to them. So what you're talking about is something
love
that's
that.
asked for. It's our
Yeah,
stories are so valuable. And that's just for personal. You know what you just did?
yeah,
I actually did with Rochelle's story. All the research that I did on her when she became my client, I took and I started to massage it and think, how can I take this and turn it into content, which is what every founder can do. What has happened in the beginning of your business? How did you grow through your business? What are your goals and expectations? What stories you have? And that can become social media content, blog content, Substack content.
yeah, totally. I completely agree, and I think that more of us should be doing that. And again, it's a big opportunity that a lot of people are not using.
Mhm.
They just have to start. And I mean, look, a starting point is just like, come but watch one of these things, or come by to one of the, like, I host weekly events where people
Mm.
can access, and everyone says, oh my God, it's so great, and they comment that. Do they show up? What percent show up? Less than 2% show up to these things. They say, oh, this is so great, I should really go. Take advantage. I'm available, you're available, but we are accessible, but they don't come. But if you came, I would actually look at your stuff and I would give you 1, 2, 3 steps to get going on stuff. You'd be heard, you'd be
Mhm.
listened to. I think it'd be a valuable thing for you to do. But you have to be willing to show up and then do the work.
Right. And they also need to realize that they've got to start somewhere. They're not going to have
Yes.
thousands of hours like you,
Start where
but
you
they can start
are.
today. Mhm.
I
There
mean,
there is
I learned many years ago. I was at this is, again, I'm aging myself here, but years and years ago, before I had the 500,000 followers on Twitter, I had like 200 followers on Twitter. They
Mhm.
had this thing, they had these social media, like, get-togethers at bars and pubs. And so I went, and I remember there was a woman there who had 40,000 followers on Twitter, and I had only 200. And I was like, oh my God, and I've seen your stuff and I've engaged with you. And she's really good at writing stuff. Now, two things happened that was really interesting. When I met her, she was really not like her online persona. She was very kind of awkward and quiet and nerdy. But because she was a good writer, she was able to really put together some really great stuff online. But the second thing that happened, she said, look, everybody starts at zero. Like,
Mhm.
you're intimidated by me because I'm 40,000 and you're just 200, quote unquote. But look, everyone starts at zero. So, so for me, even when I hit 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, I remember I started at zero. So when someone comes to me with a really thoughtful comment and they have, 30 followers, do I dismiss them because of 30 followers? No. I said, hey, okay, that's a good insight. I love that. Great stuff. Let me retweet that. So that for everybody, everyone started at zero. Same with LinkedIn. LinkedIn. Before I invested in LinkedIn, I was actually pretty invested in LinkedIn. I had about 8,000 connections. And I built that, and then I decided, okay, let me invest in LinkedIn and build, and that's when I started to grow on LinkedIn as well. But I think that everyone's like that. So everyone starts at zero, but it's amazing what you can build, whether it's LinkedIn or Substack or Instagram or anything or YouTube.
Mm-hmm. And with the personal brand, they can be thinking about not just their personal life, but personal goals, things that they know. What part of it, though, is actually commercially where they could monetize it?
Well, I mean, a big step of the personal branding journey, and in the course that I teach, is the concept of ikigai, right? So doing something that you love, that's aligned with who you are, but also what the world needs and what they're willing to pay for. So,
Mm-hmm.
so there's certain things that may not pay for. Like if I'm good at balancing a cup on my hand, okay, maybe that doesn't pay for anything, but maybe I could be a juggler or a circus performer. Who knows? But some things people are willing to exactly, but people are willing to pay more for certain things. So you have to think about that when it comes to your personal branding piece, and that's why when you do personal branding, a big part of it is your story, but a big part of it is kind of diverging into every single aspect of who you are and what you do and how you resonate. And actually, Claude can help you with that too. It helped me with that as well. But once you have all that information, then you look at threads and themes and things that make sense, and you start to converge on what are those top things. So for me, I came up with my top 5 personal branding elements, which were Bobby loves people, performing and persuasion and influence, performing and presenting, diversity, and nurturing like my mom. And based on those 5 things, what made sense for me that I could do for the world, that I could get paid. It could have been a teacher, I could have been a coach. I decided on, I could have been a consultant in certain areas. I decided on a motivational speaker. And that's what I did. And that was 20 plus years ago, and I haven't looked back.
Mm-hmm. So then what should executives be thinking about as they look at theirs? That you're saying find 5 things that they could be able to talk about? Would that be a good start?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would start off with, what exactly do you want? What is your objective? Right.
Okay.
So I want to generate sales for my product. I want to generate awareness for my technology. I want to build a stronger thought leadership brand or authority on LinkedIn or on Instagram, or whatever else. What is your objective? That's the first thing. Then the second thing is, what is your brand? Like, do some deep dive and understand what your brand is. And then in
Mm-hmm.
order to meet your objective with the brand you currently have, what's the path to get there? Now, once you know that, now a part of that path would be content creation, but I don't think that's the main thing. I think people jump into content creation right away, but they shouldn't. Once you have the objective and the brand, and you have the target audience, and you have a path. So let's say my path is, I want to get clients in a particular area, but maybe that group is hard to get a hold of. Maybe they're not really active on LinkedIn. Maybe they're not really social media people. Then you have to find a different way to do it. So content might not be the way. Now, that said, content is still an important piece of sharing your story. So I would highly recommend it. And so when you create that content strategy, then you have to decide what method of content you want to do. Now, that's kind of where you have to come up with the pillars. What are the things you're going to talk about? And so a really good starting point is, what are the things that you want to be known for? What are the things that people ask you all the time? Because people ask me all the time, Bobby, how did you get 5 TEDx talks? How did you get 500,000 followers? How did you become a paid speaker? How did you get 50,000 on LinkedIn? So
Mm-hmm.
those are questions they ask me. So it tells me, how are you okay? How do you tell such really personal, vulnerable stories so easily? So those questions that could feed into content, which could lead to pillars. Now, you might be a corporate person that say, maybe they want to talk about coaching or your expertise in the area that you live and work in. But those questions that people ask you all the time, those are fodder for great content. And the other
Mm-hmm.
part is, what are things you want to talk about? Because look,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're passionate about something. I'm passionate about my kids and parenting. I talk about parenting all the time. In fact, I just did a LinkedIn analysis using Claude of all my past posts in the last year. And even though they say you should always talk about your professional branded content, clearly the best stuff that I shared that has gotten the most traction on LinkedIn has been talking about my son's graduation, my daughter's musicals, my mom and dad, and gratitude for them, being alive and living in Canada in their 80s. that stuff resonates with a lot of people on LinkedIn. So why would I stop doing that? I'm still going to do the professional stuff. Professional stuff sadly doesn't get as much traction, which is unfortunate. But I'm still going to do that stuff. But it's certainly interesting to see that. So yeah, I think all those things are really, really important.
Well, what you're sharing.
Sorry. So in order to start, yeah, think about the 5 questions that people ask you all the time. Think about the 5 things you want to talk about, because I love to talk about my family. I love to talk about certain social justice issues. What do you want to talk about? That's fine too. And when you do that, you'll be able to come up with the right content strategy.
Okay. That looks like we have a 3-step process that we can be able to share with others, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like it. And then when AI comes into it, we realize that we have to be the ones that speak into the AI. It has to be our story that we're telling, our framing of it. But then AI from there can take that volume and, like you see, be able to write a book, which it's amazing.
Yeah, and as I say with AI, garbage in, garbage out. So if you're putting in garbage, it's just feel garbage. But also, it's not meant to replace you. It's meant to be a supportive tool to enhance you. So in terms of reach and scalability, as well as saving time with systems and automations that you don't need to do. So that's why AI is such a great tool if used properly. But I see a lot of people using it improperly, and so that's where it gets to be a bit of a challenge.
Sure. Well, I want to talk about the resources that shaped you next, and then how we can support you with the resources. You're following Brené Brown and Gary Vee. These are totally different voices. How have they helped you? How do they help you think about your story and being a leader?
Yeah, it's funny. Years ago on my LinkedIn profile, I had something. I basically related myself to Brené Brown and Gary Vaynerchuk, and then my favorite comedian of the time. And because to me, Brené Brown, for the vulnerability, the deep connection, the authenticity, that to me is a powerful piece of who I am. And then Gary Vaynerchuk with the entrepreneurship journey, the hustle, and the kindness that he puts in what he's doing is great. And then the third one is my favorite comedian. Now, who are my favorite comedians today? Well, right now, I would say it's like Josh Johnson, Tig Notaro, Mark Maron, and Hasan Minhaj. And the comedy is about being insightful about the world around you, finding the funny, and being able to laugh at ourselves, staying grounded, and then ultimately just having fun on the journey. And so those 3 things are kind of how I like to move forward in my life. And I use those 3 specific examples as kind of like lighthouses, beacons of light that are inspire me.
Is there anyone else?
In terms of what?
That inspires you, that has helped, brought you to where you are today, that you really would love to be on stage with someday?
Wow, on stage with someday?
Yeah.
Man, that's a good question. It's hard for me to. I mean, I kind of named a bunch of really good people who were all the ones that I'd want to be on stage with. So I think that definitely hits home with me. If who I'd love to be on stage with, and don't tell them, because they're like, oh, Dad, but my kids, because I just think they're really smart. They're smart, bright kids. Years ago, I wanted them to start a YouTube channel during the pandemic because they're very, very articulate and fun and creative. And I think that both of them, even though they would hate me to say this, I think both of them could be really, really good speakers, trainers, influencers, inspirers. My daughter's more the performer like me, but my son, he's more introverted, but I think he has a lot to offer too if he did it. And so for me, the idea of speaking on stage with them, maybe 5, 10, 15 years, I would love that.
I love to hear that.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
They inspire me. I learn from them every day.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting your kids. They sound like some great kids. I have seen some pictures of them.
Sure.
And they are in college now, both of them.
One's starting college this fall. He's turning 18, and the other one's going to grade 11.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Cool. Jay in the audience says, "What will stories be like in the future?" What do you think that's going to be between AI and humans building these?
I think there's going to be lots of AI stories, which is going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of stories that are not real. there's going to be, I think there's going to be this is happening now too, but a trend towards shorter stories. I mean, the
Okay.
truth is, like sharing a 10-minute story on a video just it doesn't track as much as the story that's like less than 90 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to say the story quickly about, what happened, what's the main result, what's the lesson, like. And so I think that because people's attention spans, because of social media and technology, have been negatively impacted by us, and so I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
bit of an issue. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that's happened, and it's going to continue to happen unless we find a way to. And again, I'm a big advocate for regulating some of these things, because the internet came, people were afraid of it, and they said we need more regulations on this because we're all scared, and it's pretty daunting. But then not much happened. Then social media came, people were scared. We need regulation around this, so in case it doesn't really get out of control, and that didn't happen as much. And now we have AI. It's scary. We need regulation around it, but again, companies and policymakers don't do enough on that. So we as humans have to step up, as parents have to step up to educate our kids, to educate each other on this stuff. But it's just even harder and harder these days because we can't keep up with how fast technology is moving. And so we have to be mindful of that. So I'm really big on how that works, and how people need to be more advocating for this. So I'm slowly starting to advocate more than I used to. I'm starting to share more on like my Instagram stories and talking about technology and social media and AI and kids and screens and things like that, because I think it's so important, because we are losing our focus. We are having trouble being able to look at AI and not be able to our critical thinking skills. All this stuff is being impacted, and we need to make sure that we stay grounded and be able to see through that stuff.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. We can team up on that for a panel and probably get many other parents involved.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure.
We've got Jeffrey here is giving a shout out for you to his Trusted Business Community Association to come check you out. All right. Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Well, I've got some rapid fire questions prepared for you. Are you ready? Yeah. Okay. So,
yeah.
I love it. All right. So you had to unlearn being everywhere to focus on one thing. How did you know when your story was clear enough to go all in?
So I had to unlearn what? Say that again?
You had to unlearn being everywhere. So being in Twitter, being in person, being everywhere. You had to learn that. So how did you know that your story was clear enough that you were ready to go all in?
After I had done the entire personal brand work, I had 3 different personality assessments all say the same thing. Like I had a dozen people say the same thing, and I had my own self-assessment. When the fact that all 3 of those things aligned, I knew that my personal branding elements that I created for the 5 that I mentioned before, they were on perfect for me. Okay. I was willing to go all in.
Okay. What responsibility comes with the visibility that you've built and with helping others to own their stories?
Well, it's up to each person how much they want to take ownership and responsibility of what they do and how much they do. I think the main thing I tell people is that, look, you can't be responsible for every single thing. Like someone say, hey, Bobby, weren't you talking about, topic X? I was like, look, like there's only so much of me. I have certain things I can talk about, but like the thing I would say is, like, if I had $1 million and I give $1 to 1 million charities, would that have an impact? Probably not. But if I gave 100,000 to 10 charities, that would probably have an impact, wouldn't it? So it's the same with the things I choose to talk about. Doesn't mean I'm not going to talk about the other issues. If someone comes with an interesting post and they say, hey, can you share this? I'll say, yeah, sure, no problem. But, I have to focus my energy on where are my top 3, top 5, top, 10 things I'm going to talk about. And so that's important.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give you 2 choices and you tell me which one fits best. Scale or depth in building business?
Depth. You cannot build scale unless you know yourself deeply.
Profit or purpose?
Purpose, because if the purpose is right and aligned with your brand, then the profit will come. But also the other thing is too, like, look, I'm not trying to be the next billionaire. Like I'm not. I mean, I'm happy to have impact more than anything else. I certainly want to make sure we have enough money to take care of the kids and pay for things. But some extra money would be nice to go on trips and stuff. But for the most part, the purpose is far more compelling. It also moves you better, and it also moves you in a more authentic way and for the right reasons than being like a, fake it till they make it type person.
Sure. Thank you. And I know the answer to this one too, but I'll let you say it. What's the AI tool you use the most?
Well, it used to be, I basically invested in tons of AI tools years ago, and because I knew that AI was coming, it was going to be good. And then they got really, really good. Then I dropped out 7 or 8 of them, kept the 3 or 4 that I thought were helpful. But then I started getting a ChatGPT. But now I've been fully invested in Claude and Claude Code, VS Code, but Claude as the primary engine. And now ChatGPT is like maybe 5% of my time. And all the other software tools that I had, I'm probably dropped them all because Claude at this point can do everything for me. I don't need anything else anymore. It's designed systems and apps and tools for me to do that. And so I cannot express how much of a game changer it's been. I often joked about how that I was on the bicycle of AI, and other people are driving jets or fast cars and they're the experts. But I'm riding a bicycle because I want to learn. I'm taking the sights. Some people are walking, other people are standing, and some people are just sitting. But for the people who are standing and sitting, I am like hundreds of miles ahead. But now I am on literally a motorcycle with a jet, and I'm going very, very fast, and I'm getting thousands of miles ahead of people. But again, I'm a big believer. Someone helps you up, you then go back and bring them up. And so for me, that's what I'm doing with TLB Club and my TEDx Mastery clients.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. You've been posting all of these videos. You're like, come on, come learn with me. Come see what I've done. Absolutely. Which would be your one word for legacy. You're such a great storyteller. That was the next question. You're such a good storyteller to where you're sitting there in the meeting and you're learning something and you like it. You're not just being like taught by the earth space science teacher. Okay, this is not mine. Maybe somebody else loves it. It's the earth space science teacher, and you're like, I like the teacher, the message though, but your message and your style, I love it. So thank you for being so generous with sharing that stuff. Okay.
Happy to do it.
Yeah. It's very obvious. You mean to do it. And Bobby, I'm gonna give you an opportunity. What is your mission statement? If you have one statement that you want everyone to know when they would work with you, what do you want them to know?
Well, it's kind of what I said in the early stage. Like, if you want to own your story and create impact and purpose and legacy, and you're willing to ask for help, me and the other amazing people around me in my communities are ready to help you. The question is, are you ready to ask for help? Are you ready to start? And are you ready to actually get to the result that you want? Because if you are, then I'm here for you.
Bobby, thank you for joining us. Thanks for reminding us that our stories are not just things that have happened to us. We have learned much because Claude is going to be the next thing. Everyone's going to show up. When you post Claude on your page, they'll be showing up to your next class. You've opened up opportunities that I really value. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
Any founders that are watching today, your story doesn't end with just a post. It doesn't end with a Substack message. You have keynotes, workshops, training programs, downloadable guides. All of these can continue to share your knowledge, your experience, and your skills. And that's what we're doing here within the Top Voices Unite community, is that we are standing each other up in opportunities to where you could be able to increase your reach, increase your opportunities for collaboration, and monetize that. Within Top Voices Unite, we are expanding our services. I have to tell Bobby this today. We are hosting and promoting events, but we are also hosting and promoting their events. We are helping them to reach audiences beyond their networks and increasing their visibility and their engagement. So if you'd like to connect with us and other knowledge experts that can help to amplify your work, let me know, and we will help you with a not go it alone approach, but a rather go together. Join us inside the Top Voices Unite School community, and we will continue this conversation with Bobby. I will connect you with other knowledge experts and give you some resources to help you to make a larger impact, because your voice matters and all of our stories have value to be able to create something better spiritually, socially, economically. And Bobby and I want to be there with you alongside of it. So thank you again, Bobby, so much for coming, and we'll continue the conversation from here.
Awesome. Bye.
All right. Thanks for coming, guys. Bye.